It begins in silence, a kind of silence that isn't peaceful, but hollow. You're standing in the middle of your life, and suddenly everything feels unfamiliar. The people you trusted are strangers. The love you gave was taken for granted. The loyalty you showed was met with a knife in your back. In that moment, when betrayal slices through your reality, is where the old self dies. And it's exactly where the chosen ones begin to awaken. We don't wake up in comfort. We wake up in the wreckage. One moment, you believe you're safe. The next, you realize the very people you protected were the ones plotting your fall. That realization breaks something open inside you. Not just your heart, but your illusions. And in that breaking, the soul begins to whisper, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." But it doesn't feel like a beginning, does it? It feels like devastation. And it is. Because betrayal is the most intimate form of destruction. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from those you let close. And that's what makes it sacred. Because betrayal has the power to shatter everything false in your life. But it destroys the illusions you've built around your identity. It forces you to ask the question most people spend their entire lives avoiding: who am I without them? This is the moment where the spiritual journey ignites. When you're left alone in a room, heart ripped open, mind racing, soul shaking, and you realize no one is coming to save you. That's when the real you begins to emerge. Not the version of you that was built to please, not the version that needed validation, but the silent, powerful, eternal version, the one that remembers. The one that always knew you weren't meant to belong in the matrix of false love, shallow loyalty, and silent betrayal. You were meant to rise from it, but to rise you had to fall, and betrayal was the push.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's get honest. Most of us would have never started our spiritual awakening if life had been kind. We would have stayed asleep in relationships that drained us, jobs that numbed us, and systems that exploited us. But betrayal is personal. It forces you to stop pretending. It pulls the rug out from under your comfort and screams, "Wake up." And when you do, you see things you never noticed before. You see through people. You feel energy. You hear your intuition louder than ever. And you begin to realize that the betrayal didn't just happen to you. It happened for you. Because chosen ones don't awaken by accident. Our journeys are written in divine code, and betrayal is one of the sacred keys. It's the fire that burns the ego. It's the mirror that reveals the mask. It's the storm that clears the path. When someone betrays you, they are unknowingly participating in your initiation. They are playing their role in your awakening. And while their actions may come from ego, your response can come from soul. You don't have to become bitter. You don't have to close your heart. You don't have to seek revenge. You can choose something higher, but you can choose to see. And what do you see? You see that betrayal strips away what is false, so that only truth remains. You see that the pain you feel is not just about what they did. It's about what you believed. You believed they loved you. You believed they were honest. You believed they had your back. But now you see the truth, and that truth hurts. But it also liberates. It sets you free from illusions. It sets you free from needing them. It sets you free from the version of you that was addicted to approval. This is why betrayal is sacred. not because it's fair, but because it's transformational. There's a reason chosen ones go through repeated betrayals. It's not because we're weak, it's because we're here to transcend. Each betrayal is a wake-up call. Each one pushes us deeper into our purpose. Each one sharpens our discernment, deepens our compassion, and expands our vision. We don't just survive betrayal, we evolve because of it. It teaches us who we are. It teaches us who they are. And it teaches us what no book, no teacher, no guru can teach: direct spiritual knowing. You see, betrayal breaks your heart so your soul can speak louder. In the aftermath, when your plans fall apart and your trust is shattered, you're forced to go within. You start asking questions you never asked before. Why do I keep attracting these people? What am I not seeing? What am I refusing to accept about myself? These are not surface questions. These are soul questions. And they're the doorway to awakening. You begin to realize that your pain is not a curse. It's a compass. It's pointing you inward. It's pointing you toward your origin, toward your power, toward your truth. Let's go deeper. What if betrayal is not just an event, but a spiritual agreement? What if the people who hurt you were sent to activate you? What if, on a soul level, you chose them? Not because you were naive, but because you knew they would wake you up. That's the kind of radical responsibility chosen ones must embrace. Not to justify abuse, not to enable toxicity, but to reclaim our power. Because as long as we see ourselves as victims, we stay stuck. But when we see ourselves as participants in a higher plan, we begin to heal. We begin to alchemize. We begin to create from the ashes. And that's where the magic happens. When you finally stop asking why they hurt you and start asking what it taught you, you shift timelines. You become more than the wounded. You become the awakened. You begin to see the patterns, the karmic loops, the emotional contracts, and you start choosing differently. You stop chasing love. You stop begging for loyalty. You stop proving your worth. Instead, you return to yourself. You sit in your own energy. You cultivate your own light. And suddenly you no longer attract betrayal, but because you've transcended the frequency that welcomed it. Let me ask you something you've maybe never asked yourself. What if the betrayal you experienced was the greatest gift you've ever been given? What if it pushed you so deep into your own soul that you found a version of yourself no one could ever take from you again? What if the pain wasn't the end of something, but the beginning of everything? Sit with that. Let it sink below your thoughts, into your bones. Because if you can begin to see betrayal not as the destruction of your life, but as the dismantling of your illusions, you begin to awaken. And when you awaken, you become powerful in a way that terrifies the very people who tried to break you. I'm not telling you this from theory. I'm telling you this because I've lived it. I've been betrayed by people I would have died for. I've been lied to by those who looked me in the eye and said they loved me. I've had people use my kindness as a weapon against me. And for a long time I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I was too much, too trusting, too open. But in time I learned the truth. I learned that betrayal doesn't happen to weak people. It happens to those with light. It happens to those who carry codes of truth. Because false people are magnetized to real ones, not to love them, but to drain them, not to uplift them, but to silence them. And the only way to stop the cycle is to awaken, So now, every time I am betrayed, I no longer ask, why me? I ask, what is this showing me about myself? I ask, where have I abandoned my own knowing? I ask, how can I use this as fuel for my next level? And in that shift, I reclaim my power. I no longer need apologies. I no longer need closure. I no longer need them to understand, because I understand. I understand that betrayal is the soul's scalpel. It cuts away what is not aligned. It exposes what is not true. It reveals what must be released. And when you let it do its work, you are left with something rare: clarity. Clarity is the gift that betrayal leaves behind. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you deserve. In clarity about what you will never tolerate again. And that clarity becomes your compass. It guides your decisions. It sharpens your intuition. It aligns you with your highest self. That's the real awakening, not floating above your life, but walking through it with eyes wide open, not escaping pain, but transmuting it, but not avoiding betrayal, but evolving through it. So if you've been betrayed, I want you to know this: you are not broken. You are being reborn. You are not a fool. You are a soul in training. You are not alone. Every chosen one has walked through this fire, and every one of us has emerged stronger, clearer, and more powerful than ever before. You are not the betrayal. You are the blessing that comes after it. And your story is not over. It's only just beginning. After the betrayal, after the collapse, after the silence settles and the dust begins to clear, there comes a stillness that is unlike anything else. It's not peace, not at first, but it's something deeper. It's presence. For the first time in a long time, you're fully here. Not in the past, wishing things had gone differently. Not in the future, hoping things will get better. You're here, raw and vulnerable, without the armor of illusions. And in that space, something ancient begins to stir inside of you. Your true self, the one beneath the roles, the expectations, the masks. This is the version of you that betrayal was designed to awaken. Most people never reach this level of self-awareness because they run from the pain. They distract, deflect, deny. But chosen ones don't have that luxury. We are wired to feel deeply. We are built to transform pain into purpose. And so we don't just survive betrayal. We break open and rise through it. The betrayal becomes a portal, and once you step through it, you can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend you didn't see what you saw. You can't unlearn what your soul now knows. You've crossed a threshold, and on the other side is the version of you that you were always meant to become. But that version doesn't come automatically. It must be consciously chosen. You have to be willing to sit with the discomfort. And you have to be willing to look at the parts of you that allowed the betrayal to happen. Not from a place of blame, but from a place of radical honesty. Where did I ignore my intuition? Where did I override my boundaries? Where did I abandon myself in the name of love, loyalty, or acceptance? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to liberate you, because once you see the pattern, you can break it. Once you see the wound, you can heal it. Once you see the lesson, you can embody it. And that's where the true spiritual awakening begins. Not in escaping your pain, but in listening to it. Pain is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It shows you where you've been out of alignment. It reveals the illusions you've been living under. It calls you back to your center, your truth, your soul. And the deeper you listen, the more you remember who you are, not who they told you to be, not who you became to survive, but who you were before the world taught you to forget. This remembering is not mental, it's energetic. It's a shift in frequency. You move from victimhood to sovereignty, from reaction to response, from people pleasing to power. And this shift changes everything. You begin to attract differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to walk with a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove or perform. You become magnetic because you're no longer leaking energy trying to be understood. You understand yourself, and that is the foundation of every chosen one's power. But let's talk about the paradox. Because the moment you begin to awaken, the world around you often begins to resist. Friends fall away. Family members question your changes. But you may feel even more isolated than you did before. And this is one of the most painful parts of the journey. You finally start living in truth, and it feels like you're being punished for it. But what's actually happening is energetic recalibration. You're shedding the old. And the old will fight to stay. But if you hold your ground, if you stay rooted in what you know now instead of what you knew then, you begin to align with a new timeline, a timeline where you are no longer defined by betrayal, but empowered by it. This is the moment when chosen ones step into their spiritual authority, not the kind of authority that dominates or controls, but the kind that radiates. You begin to carry a frequency that others can feel. You walk into a room and shift the energy without saying a word. You become a mirror, and people either rise to meet you or reveal their true intentions. This is the gift and the challenge of the awakened chosen one. You can no longer unsee. You can no longer tolerate what your soul has outgrown. And this will cost you. It will cost you relationships. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you the version of your life you thought you wanted. But in return, you receive something priceless: alignment. Alignment is the new currency. When you are aligned, life begins to flow. Opportunities come not because you chase them, but because you embody them. Love enters not because you beg for it, but because you become it. Healing happens not because you force it, but because you finally allow it. This is the power of spiritual awakening. You stop trying to control everything, and you start collaborating with the divine. You stop asking for the pain to go away, and start asking what it's here to teach you. You stop trying to fix people and start focusing on your own frequency. And that shift is what creates ripple effects. That shift is what makes you a leader, even if no one calls you that. Because leadership is not about titles, it's about embodiment. So now we must ask the next question. If betrayal was the catalyst and awakening was the outcome, what is the mission? What do you do with this new awareness? You serve. You serve not by sacrificing yourself, but by being yourself. You serve by standing in your truth unapologetically. You serve by creating what only you can create. You serve by loving without attachment, by giving without depletion, by living without fear. That doesn't mean you won't have challenges. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. But it means you will no longer be ruled by it. You see, betrayal was never meant to break you. It was meant to break you open. And now that you're open, you can receive. You can receive the guidance that was always there. You can receive the wisdom that only pain could unlock. You can receive the love that matches your healed frequency. and you can receive the mission that was encoded in your soul before you ever came here. That mission is not something you have to figure out. It's something you remember, step by step, as you walk your path in truth. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you serve from alignment, the more you heal. The more you give from overflow, the more you receive. The more you speak your truth, the more truth finds you. This is the divine feedback loop that chosen ones live in once they awaken. It's not about effort, it's about energy. It's not about striving, it's about surrender. And the more you surrender to who you truly are, the more life begins to mirror your authenticity back to you. But we must also be real about the grief. Because even as you awaken and rise, there is grief. Grief for the person you used to be. Grief for the people who couldn't come with you. Grief for the life you thought you wanted before you knew better. And that grief is sacred. It's not something to rush through or avoid. It's something to honor, because it means you loved. It means you cared. It means you were all in. And that kind of heart, that kind of soul, that is exactly what this world needs more of, not less. So let me ask you something. Are you willing to let go of who you were to become who you were born to be? Are you willing to stop waiting for apologies that may never come so you can create a future that doesn't depend on them? Are you willing to take everything you've been through and use it as fuel for your mission, your art, your healing, your life? Because that is the real alchemy, not just surviving betrayal, but turning it into a blessing so powerful that it blesses everyone you meet. This is your invitation to stop hiding, to stop shrinking, to stop pretending you're not powerful. You are powerful, not in spite of your betrayal, but because of it. You didn't just go through hell, you became the fire. You didn't just lose people, you found yourself. You didn't just wake up, you remembered your soul. And now you get to live from that place. You get to love from that place. You get to lead from that place. And if the world doesn't understand you, that's okay. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to be felt. You were born to be seen by those who carry a similar frequency. You were born to be a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. You don't have to rescue anyone, you just have to shine. And in shining, you'll call in those who are ready to remember who they are, too. So breathe, stand tall, and remind yourself betrayal didn't end you. It awakened you. This is your path. This is your power. And this is just the beginning. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the pain no longer defines you. It refines you. After betrayal has shaken you, after awakening has rooted in your spirit, you begin to see that your suffering was never random. It was sacred. It was coded with intelligence, a divine pattern hidden in the chaos. And now, standing on the other side, you begin to walk not as the wounded, but as the wise. Because you didn't just survive betrayal. You allowed it to become your greatest teacher. You made the pain do something it was never designed to do by those who inflicted it. You turned it into power. Now the question becomes, what do you build from here? Because awakening without embodiment is incomplete. You've seen the truth. You've felt the fire. You've been stripped down to nothing but your soul. But now it's time to construct the life that matches that truth. This is where many chosen ones hesitate. But we've lived so long in survival, in defense, in hiding, that we forget we're allowed to thrive. We forget that we were never meant to just shield ourselves from betrayal. We were meant to build something indestructible because of it, something so rooted in authenticity, so aligned with the divine, that no lie, no loss, no illusion can shake it. But first, you must trust yourself again. And betrayal damages that inner compass. It makes you question your intuition, your choices, your judgment. You replay scenarios in your mind, wondering how you didn't see the red flags, how you let them get that close. But here's the thing: your ability to love, to trust, to see the good in others. That's not your flaw. That's your gift. The betrayal wasn't a reflection of your weakness. It was a reflection of their inability to meet your light with their own. And now, your healing is not about hardening your heart. It's about refining your discernment. You're not here to stop trusting. You're here to start trusting yourself more than ever. You begin to feel it, the inner compass recalibrating. The voice of your soul getting louder than the voices of your past. You start making decisions that don't make sense to others, but they feel right to you. You start saying no without guilt, yes without fear, and goodbye without regret. You start living in alignment with what your soul has always known, but your mind was too afraid to admit. And that alignment begins to attract new experiences, new relationships, new opportunities. And not because you're chasing them, but because you become them. This is the law of resonance. The frequency you hold determines what you attract. And when you've transmuted betrayal into wisdom, your frequency becomes untouchable. You no longer attract people who use you. You attract people who see you. You no longer tolerate crumbs. You sit at the table you built. You no longer wait for someone to save you. You realize you were always the one. And this shift begins to impact not just your personal life, but your purpose. Because make no mistake, chosen ones don't awaken just for themselves. We awaken to become conduits for collective healing. Your story, your wounds, your transformation, they are medicine. There's someone out there right now who is drowning in betrayal, who feels like giving up, who thinks they'll never recover. And they won't listen to a perfect guru on a mountaintop. They'll listen to you. Someone who's been through the fire and came out not just alive but lit. Someone who doesn't speak from theory but from truth. Someone who knows the terrain of pain and can map the way out. So you begin to share. Maybe not on a stage. Maybe not with a camera, but with your energy, with your words, with your presence. Every healed part of you becomes a lighthouse. Every scar becomes a signal. And the more you live from this place, the more you realize something profound. The betrayal didn't break you. It built you. It carved out the space where your power could live. It made you uncomfortable enough to change. It made you desperate enough to seek truth. It made you strong enough to stand alone. And now you are never truly alone again, because betrayal cleared the noise. It cut away what was false. It made room for what is real. Real love, real connection, real purpose, real peace. And this peace is not passive. It is powerful. It's the kind of peace that says, I see the darkness, but I choose the light anyway. The kind that lets you walk through the world open-hearted, but not naive. The kind that doesn't need to be loud, because its presence says everything. But we must remember, the journey doesn't end here. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's a continual unfolding. Betrayal may have been the first door, but there are many more. Each challenge, each trigger, Each disappointment is another opportunity to go deeper, deeper into truth, deeper into love, deeper into service. And the more you walk this path, the more you realize that betrayal was not your enemy. It was your initiation. It was the divine invitation to become who you were always meant to be. And now you carry that initiation like armor, but not to protect yourself, but to remind yourself who you are, why you're here, what you came to do. So let us ask one final question. What kind of world could we create if every chosen one fully embodied their awakening? If we stopped hiding, if we stopped shrinking, if we stopped waiting for permission to be powerful? What if our betrayals were not just our crucifixions, but our resurrections? What if we stopped seeing pain as punishment and started seeing it as preparation? What if we allowed the fire to forge us into something unshakable, undeniable, unforgettable? That's the world I believe in. That's the world I'm building. One conversation at a time, one healed wound at a time, one awakened soul at a time. Because betrayal may have started our journey, but it will not define it. What defines us is what we choose to do with that pain. Do we let it close us, or do we let it open us? Do we let it destroy us, or do we let it transcend us? The choice is always ours. And if you're still here, if you're still breathing, still feeling, still listening, then you've already chosen. You chose to rise. You chose to remember. You chose to awaken. And now, the only thing left is to live like it. You are the storm and the silence, the flame and the fuel, the wound and the weapon. You are not just a survivor. You are a spiritual architect, and your life is the blueprint. Build wisely, build boldly, build in truth. Because the world is watching. The world is waiting, and your light is no longer optional. It's essential. Now go, walk as the awakened, love as the healed, lead as the initiated, and remember, betrayal didn't end your story. It revealed your soul.